Mr. Greg Davis. Thanks, sir.
How honored I am to be here this morning. You people are so fortunate to have the administrators you have. A wonderful school. You ought to be proud. I retired in 1986. 5 years later, I ended up with PTS. PTS is a condition, post-traumatic stress, and it brings tears because you remember some of the things that happened years ago. Okay. I want to take you back to first grade, if I can. My parents didn't take children to school back in the 30s. The older brother took you to school, and older brothers are not nice. I remember he pushed me in the room and said, "Stop your bawling." And I had the most wonderful experience with Miss Grace O'Toole, my first grade teacher. I learned that if I combed my hair and brushed my teeth and signed the paper that I was clean that day, that she would pick one student out to be the student of the day. And if I sat up straight with my hands on the desk, she would call out my name, and I could run up and sit on her lap. And she would read Heidi to us. And I was thrilled because she was one beautiful person. And I got off a wonderful start in Altoona with my first grade teacher. I think I was in love with her. I think the first crush I ever had was my first grade teacher. Anyway, then I go to 9th grade, your grade, and I run into a Mr. Twining, my civics teacher, who ran track for Penn State. Big, tall man who told interesting stories about Penn State. And I got interested in track. So he encouraged me to run. And I was pretty fast as a young boy. I won my varsity letter in Altoona High School when I was a junior. I ran the 100-yard dash, 220 and the 440. I also met Dr. Levi Gilbert there. Dr. Gilbert was the superintendent of all the Altoona School District. And for some reason, you didn't have blocks to start off with. You dug holes in the cinder track for your starting blocks. He would come down. He had a son that was a javelin thrower. He'd come down to the pitch where we started and talk to me about how good are you going to run today, or are you going to take first place? And he motivated me to run. In fact, my coach took me out of history class one time and took me to a leather shop, and I had a pair of varsity track shoes made, my own track shoes. Now that's a Nego trip from a kid that was born in the streets of Altoona. Then I belonged to two gangs, pretty rough. I had a BB gun, a Daisy BB gun that we used to shoot at the Italians with. There was different districts of Altoona. The Germans lived in one area, the Italians lived in another area, and we didn't get along very well because there was a Protestant Catholic problem in Altoona back in the 30s. All right. June 6, 1944 was Normandy invasion. I graduated from high school that day. June 26, I was drafted in the Army. I passed the test, and I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, in the Okefenokee swamps for basic training in the anti-aircraft school. Now let's move ahead. The Army, the Air Force got control of the air. We didn't need anti-aircraft crews. So all the anti-aircraft boys from Fort Stewart were sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia for advanced infantry school. You do not, as a replacement, you do not want to go overseas as a replacement. The average age for replacement in combat is 5 minutes. My first day in combat, well, I'm getting him a story. I went from Fort Gordon, Georgia to New York to get on a troop ship. There were 2 troop ships going that week, the Marine Fox and Marine Wolf. I was on the Marine Fox. You do not want to ride the Atlantic Ocean in the wintertime. It's an angry ocean. There were days we weren't allowed out on first deck. We were 3 stories below first deck. We slept 5 high. You slept with all your clothes on. The only thing you took off were your shoes. You wore a life preserver. German submarines were in the area. We went by convoy across the Atlantic. Some of those waves were probably 30 feet high. People throwing up. Some guy threw up on my mess plate. I didn't eat in the cafeteria after that. I bought Clark bars in the commissary. I ate Clark bars all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. I landed at Le Havre, which is, we went up the English Channel. Le Havre was a submarine base for the Germans. And when I walked down that gangplank, I said, someone's going to pay for this. Because we were mistreated, terribly mistreated. I went to Camp Lucky Strike. Troop train came up. We got on the troop train. It had straw in the no chairs, just straw in the freight cars. We had a 5-gallon bucket for waste, and we rode across from Le Havre to Metz. Metz was a replacement depot. And at night you can see the artillery guns flashing. You have in the military your MOS number. My MOS was a combat mortarman. To graduate from mortar school, you were supposed to hit an orange crate at 400 yards. You can't hardly see an orange crate at 400 yards. But if you hit it, you graduate. I was a mortarman. I joined the 89th Division. The mortarman was killed by a sniper. I moved in to take his place. My first day in combat, we were walking up the line. We were going up the line in a company formation. And I was in the 89th Division, rolling W. The 90th was coming off. And I said to the guy in the 90th, where are the Jerrys? The Germans were called Jerrys. We were called them Marians. He said they're a quarter of a mile up. We went about 200 yards and the machine gun opened up on us. Now, the first time that machine gun opened up, that's a scary adventure. I laid down alongside the road, parallel to the road. My buddy Mike laid perpendicular to the road. He wasn't in combat 1 minute before he was hit by a machine gun. My lieutenant had both knees taken out. When Mike and I were laughing about the Germans shooting at us up on the hill, because we knew there was a platoon behind us that was going to flank them, and they had a choice. They were going to be killed or surrender. Well, they surrendered, 9 of them. They brought them down to the dirt road. See, Germans only had Autobahn highways. Most of their roads were dirt. They brought those 9 German Jerrys, they were, down to the road, made them lay on the road, and the entire company walked by them. Now, you weren't allowed to stab them, but you were allowed to kick them. And I have to admit, we tried to kick them in the rib cage so we'd break their ribs or crack them, because that's a painful injury. But they had wounded my buddy Mike, hurt my lieutenant, so they had to pay for it. My first mortar mission, I was on a hill, the captain was by me, he called me up and said, there was a young German boy riding a bicycle. He was a messenger. He said to me, take him off that bike. Now, German roads are like this. put a mortar shell up in the air. See, there's a mortar tube. You put the mortar shell in the tube, and it hits a post, explodes, and it goes up in the air and falls down. Doesn't make any noise. A bullet spits. Artillery shell will whine. You can hear. A machine gun makes a lot of noise. You can hear bullets. If a bullet spits loud, it's close. You better get your rear end on the ground in a hurry. I lasted 32 days in combat before I was hit. We were having an artillery barrage, and my captain said, let's get out into a drainage ditch. So we went out to the drainage ditch, the captain, the lieutenant, and myself. And the Germans lowered their artillery fire and started to hit the field. The captain said, let's get out of here, back into the woods. See, when you're in the woods, you get what's called tree bursts. And they're dangerous because the shrapnel goes down instead of up. If the shell hits the wood or the ground, the shrapnel goes up. My lieutenant got up, and I got up, and I was watching him, and he got hit. He broke cheeks of his rear end tore off, and he did squeal. Well, he fell down, and when I was watching him, I got hit, and I got knocked down in the right shoulder. I got knocked down. I reached for my hand because I thought the arm was off. I could feel my fingers. So I called for a medic. He came and laid on top of me so I wouldn't get hit again. The shrapnel had gone in the front and out the back, and I could feel the blood running in the back, and he couldn't get the blood stopped. And I could feel the blood flowing, and I said, I think there's a hole in the back. He found the second hole. Put a patch in the hole, get the blood stopped. And about that time, the captain walked up and said, how's he doing? And the medic said, if I don't get the blood stopped, I'm going to lose him. Then I got scared. Getting hit is not fun. A lot of boys will call for God. A lot of them call for Mom. Most of them call for Mom. I called for Mom. The ambulance came up, took us to the battalion. We got shelled in the battalion headquarters. And they drove us, they gave me a shot of morphine and put me to sleep. Took me to a field hospital. I was operated on that night. Very unpleasant. I'd never been in a hospital before. I'd never taken a pill in my whole life. I had to take 6 pills. And I was crying, and the doctor slapped me. He said, if you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry for. The nurse, the operating nurse, stayed with me in the post-op and apologized to me for his actions. I never saw the surgeon again. I'd probably decked him if I ever met him. I was sent to Paris Hospital, was operated on there. They flew me home. I landed in New York City. They flew me to Atlantic City, and Atlantic City is the home of England General Hospital. It's an amputee hospital. 95% of all patients there were amputees. And they were going to take off my arm. So I went to the doctor and said, can you save my arm? I don't want to lose it. I hunt with that arm. I shoot with my right hand. I didn't want to lose it. And he said to me, well, you're not going to listen, but if you listen, I can save it. I said, you try me. I listened. He saved my arm. It's numb. My trigger finger is this finger. It's not, these fingers are all numb. The arm is numb. I went to the VA years after this. And I went to a special girl, her name was Sue. She had a dog on the 3rd floor. She wanted to hear my story. And once I told her what happened, she said, you know, you are remarkable. I'm going to get my doctor to look at you. She had her own doctor on the 3rd floor. He called in an x-ray team, and they found shrapnel in my right shoulder. They hadn't found shrapnel since, they never found shrapnel in 45. It was like 1990, they found this 4 or 5 pieces of shrapnel still in my shoulder. Then once they found shrapnel, the VA started to pay attention. Beyond my needs, I guess. I'm now 100% disabled. And I went to them and said, you're too high. I'm not that bad. And they said, they weren't too nice. They said, get the H out of here. You don't know how people are trying to get 100% disability, and you come in here and tell us that you want it lower. Well, I didn't really want it lower, but at the same time, I thought 100% was too high for me, because I can still hunt, I can still fish, and I can still use this finger, and I kill deer. I kill a lot of deer. But anyway, the VA has been very good to me. I do have PTS. I do go see the psychiatrist. I don't, maybe I shouldn't say this, but they have more problems, I think, than I do. I get my help from the psychologists. They're the ones that did. I'm not doing too well with crying today, but they're the ones that stop the bullet. When we killed people, we laughed. Now, I was brought up in a Christian church, and you're not supposed to hurt other people. But when you go into combat, they're trying to kill you. I had a Mexican one time lay was up beside me on line. He was a driver for the captain. No one liked him. And I don't know why he was beside me. I didn't like him. But there was a German boy. See, we would send our scouts out, and they would find the Germans and radio back. And the captain would bring this company up, and we would get on top of a hill and watch the Germans dig their foxholes. My captain was weird. He would wait till they built their foxholes, and then he'd order them killed. Well, you figure it out now. If they died in the foxhole, no one had to bury them. They were already in a hole. So we would go up and look at them and laugh about them because they had that misfortune. They belonged to the wrong Nazi group. Oh, I'm getting ahead of the story. The last German I captured, I was walking up to a firefight. I was carrying the mortar tube. I was walking up a firefight on a hill. And I looked to my left, and there was a German walking. Germans wore gray uniforms. This guy was all gray. He had a gray overcoat on. So I put the mortar shell case down, I ran down, and I said something stupid. I had a 45 Colt with my sidearm. I pulled it out, I stuck it in his ear, and I said, breathe, you darn, so I'll say darn Nazi. If you breathe, you die. And he said to me no Nazi, me Protestant. He had 5 kids. He had deserted. I couldn't shoot him. I called my sergeant. The sergeant was up on the road looking at me, and I said, Sarge, get down here. He said, what's the problem? I said, I have this prisoner. He's deserted. He doesn't have a gun. I don't want to shoot him. He said, kick him in the rear end and send him home. So my last German I captured, I had to release because he had to go home. And I've often wanted to go back to Germany and try to find him and see if he made it home. Well, okay. So where are we? The VA. The VA has been very good to me. I decided in 1990 to write a book, and I hired a JB graduate, Yvonne Butz-Michaels, to write the book for me. I have sold over 1,100 books, and I just ordered another 50. I sold those books because when I taught school here at JB, I was department chairman. I was good to my students. If they had a problem, it sometimes was my problem. If they had a problem at home, I heard about it. I was very kind to my students. I made sure if they were in the hospital, I went to see them. I had the president of the class of '84 got killed in an automobile accident. I was down south hunting. I came home on a Saturday. I went to her grave on Sunday morning. Her mother was there. We had a nice talk. I really believe that my book has done well because I was kind to my students. I was also a disciplinarian at times. I was class advisor, I was student council advisor. I saw the student side of high school was a little different than the faculty side. I'm honored to be here. Class of '77 did this shadow box. I get to speak to a lot of class reunions because I was their advisor. But I was not the advisor of the class of '77. Mr. Benedict and his staff have been very kind to me. I was raised in a humble home during Depression. My allowance when I was a senior in high school was 15 cents every 2 weeks. So you didn't have a lot of money. But I think I've done well. I do have something I want to tell you. I told Mrs. Straley. I was invited on Air Force One in September. The press is not allowed to tell the story. I was told not to tell the press. The press is here today, and I hope he honors my request. For some reason, there are only 2 veterans were invited. My wife and I were invited, and another 102-year-old veteran was invited. And we spent 2 hours on Air Force One. It's a beautiful airplane. I was in Trump's bedroom. He has big, king-size sofas that make up in the bed. The kitchen is huge. They told us if someone spills any fluid on the rugs in Air Force One, all the rugs get picked up and put down new, brand new. We left Air Force One. The Thunderbirds were putting on the air show. As soon as we walked out of the hangar, you could think of roaring. We ate at the officers' mess, the officers' night club. We had a big day. And I was honored to be on that plane. As I said, the VA has been very, very good to me. I'm on lorazepam, 1 milligram for anxiety. 1 milligram is nothing when it comes to medicine. So, and I take it at night before I go to bed. I want to thank you for being such a nice audience.
Here's what I would say as we're finished, folks. Mr. Davis is, you heard his time frame, right? On D-Day, he was in high school. Then, so he's actually a fairly young World War II veteran. There are people that are older than you.
Oh, yes.
So, but still, Mr. Davis is what, 92?
92.
92, and we dedicated this on his birthday back in January.
Yes.
What I would say is there are fewer and fewer people, World War II veterans certainly alive with us. So ask people and let them tell you their stories. Mr. Davis enjoys being able to tell his story, especially to interested audiences. But like, you may have grandparents or you may have people in your community, whatever. They love. I mean, be cautious and be gentle with that. But if they're willing to share, there's a lot of history that we don't ever get to hear about because we don't ask. So.
Do you have any questions?
The movies they make about World War II, Mr. Davis, are how accurate? What's the most accurate movie you've seen about what you experienced in World War II? Have you seen a movie that is accurate?
No.
Why not?
I was told not. Okay, I wrote this book,
Yeah.
and I went to my psychiatrist in Martinsburg. I walked in his office, and he said, and I don't like to use shaded. He said, "What the heck happened to you?" I had taken a step back with anxiety, and he picked it up. He said, "I told you this was going to happen." He said, "I'm glad you wrote the book, but you're suffering now." The problem with PTS, 24% of all PTS people commit suicide. So it's something you have to guard against. You don't want to get depressed to the point that life is not worth living and do something stupid. I have had students whose fathers committed suicide. It's almost a coward's way out of the problem. So you avoid that by trying to stay positive.
So now, folks, we have several copies of the book.
Something to
Go
my
ahead.
story. When I went to Gordon, we were called fresh meat and canned fodder all the time. Because we were told, write home and tell your parents you're going to get killed, because that's what's going to happen to you. When you join a line outfit, in combat.
Please excuse the interruption, teachers. The presentation that is in the library is running a little over, so please excuse those students when they come late to class. Thank you.
They bring a truck up, and they have people in the back of that truck that throw boxes of food out. They're sea rations. You grab six cans for 3 meals, and that's how you eat. You eat any time you can. You have a can opener on your dog tags. I was going to bring, my dog tags are in there, but I was going to bring my dog tags. But on your dog tag, there is a can opener, and you can open that metal can and you can get it on. But you pick those cans up at night, and you can't read what's on there. Now you have to feel, hoping you get vegetable and beef or hot dogs and beans. You also get a can of candy, chewing gum, toilet paper. That's just commodities. Now, I will tell you this. When we got our candy and our sea rations, we put it in a pocket. And we went in a German town, and there were children in that town. We threw candy at those kids. Now, when they looked at you when you walked down the street with a gun in your hand, there's fear in their eyes. But you throw little children candy, it puts a smile on their face. And I've had soldiers come back from Germany telling me stories of children telling them about getting candy from the American soldiers. The children weren't the enemy. The enemy was the army. Adolf Hitler was the bad guy. He called out for Lebensraum. He wanted living room for Germany. He was a nutcracker. It's a good thing he died, because if we had probably, I forgot to tell you this, my division, 89, could have been in Berlin 3 weeks before the Russians got there. We weren't allowed to go to Berlin. We went into Czechoslovakia looking for a hidden army. There wasn't a German army in Czechoslovakia. The Russians were, an agreement was made with Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill. Churchill wanted the Russians to be the first to go into Berlin. I don't like to tell you this, but I think I have to for a fact. The Russians raped, the figure we heard, 55,000 German women were raped in Berlin. American Army did not do that. If you were stupid enough to mistreat some woman, the Army would hang you. You had a trial. I saw the hanging rig when I was in Germany. They had a portable rig that ran around if they had to. I think they only shot one American soldier in the whole war, but they did hang him when they did misdeeds. The Russians, I met some Russians. There were Russians in our hospital in Paris. They're dirty people. They probably cleaned up now, but in 45, they didn't use toilet paper. They didn't brush their teeth. They didn't wash their hair. They wouldn't take showers. They had them in the halls in the hospital because the wards were all covered with American wounded. And we had to walk by them to take we had to take a shower every day. We wore convalescent uniforms. When we walked by them, I'm not proud of this, but we gave them an elbow or we gave them a knee. We thumped them a little bit because they wouldn't cooperate. They wouldn't take a shower. I think they think the shower was gas, and that's how the Germans killed their people. Oh, by the way, I was the first American to be in Orndorff. Orndorff was a satellite concentration camp to Buchenwald. My lieutenant shot open the gate. The German locks are like this. They're high. First time he shot, he missed. And I remember saying something because I was quoted over, if you can't shoot, I'll shoot you, dumb lock off. I didn't say dumb. I'm being nice today. The lieutenant said, don't go in there. I said, I'm going in. I want to find out how bad it is. It was pretty bad. The women weighed maybe 85 pounds. The men maybe weighed 115. The little children, there were little children in that camp. They didn't wear diapers. They had a little shirt on, covered their chests. And they were like 3, 4, 5 years old. But they didn't have anything on below that. I walked into the, if you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, it's the same thing. I walked, it's pine boards. They slept 5-door bed, 1 blanket. It wasn't just Jewish, get this point across. It wasn't just Jewish people in the Holocaust. Gypsies were there, retarded people were there, crippled people were there. Anybody that wasn't blonde-haired, blue eyes, and healthy, if Hitler and his people wanted to put him in, they put him in the concentration camp. They fed him a bowl of barley soup a day. You don't survive. They worked them. You don't survive on a bowl of barley soup. And Orndorff was a labor camp, and when the people, they didn't gas them there, they sent them to Buchenwald to be gassed. They knew when Buchenwald was like 10 miles down the road. Now, I was not at Buchenwald. I smelled Buchenwald. There was an odor in the air for dead people. Okay, I think I'm finished. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And again, folks, that's his case. All those things were his. We have several copies of his book to be checked out and read and all that. But big round of applause. I appreciate Mr. Davis coming in. was it's remarkable to me to think of the ages. So he was literally, what, 19?
I was 18 when I
18.
was drafted. I
So-
was 19 when I was in combat. I didn't shave, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink. I didn't drink, I don't want to get on a morality kick here. I didn't drink because my mother told me one time when I was a little boy, if you ever drink, it will break my heart. So I never drank.
I just think you all know people that are 19. My daughter's 19. My son's 21. Like, he did this stuff at that age. It's a couple years older than you guys, so it's amazing. But